The transport shuttle descended through the purple atmosphere of Zenthar 9, carrying the newest batch of cadets to the most prestigious military academy in the known galaxy. Among the passengers sat Marcus Chen, the first human ever accepted into the Galactic Defense Institute. He pressed his face against the viewport, watching as the massive crystalline structure of the academy grew larger with each passing second. Marcus had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. The application process alone had been brutal, requiring him to prove that humanity, despite being one of the newest species to join the Galactic Coalition, deserved a seat among the elite. The interview panel had made their skepticism clear. Humans were soft, they said. Humans came from a low-gravity world with minimal predators. Humans had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. What could they possibly contribute to an institution that had been training warriors for over 10,000 years? But Marcus had persisted. He had scored in the top percentile on every examination, mastered 3 galactic languages, and demonstrated tactical thinking that impressed even the most cynical evaluators. The acceptance letter had arrived on his 20th birthday, and he had celebrated alone in his small apartment on Earth's lunar colony, knowing that the real challenge was yet to come. The shuttle landed with barely a whisper, its anti-gravity engines settling the craft onto the designated pad with precision that only centuries of technological advancement could achieve. Marcus gathered his minimal belongings and followed the other cadets out into the open air. The atmosphere was breathable for most species, though slightly thinner than Earth normal. He felt the difference immediately, but had trained for this. His lungs would adapt within days. The other cadets gave him a wide berth. There were Kylari warriors, standing nearly 8 feet tall with their 4 arms and scaled skin that could deflect small arms fire. A group of Vexian hunters moved together, their feline features and retractable claws marking them as apex predators from a world where everything wanted to kill you. Several Thorian combat specialists stood in formation, their rock-like exteriors making them nearly impervious to physical damage. Even the smallest cadets, the Kixel from the high-gravity world of Kix 7, possessed strength that allowed them to crush metal with their bare hands. And then there was Marcus. 5'10", 170 pounds with no natural armor, no claws, no enhanced strength. He could feel their eyes on him, assessing, judging, dismissing. The orientation ceremony took place in the Grand Hall, a space so vast that Marcus couldn't see the far wall through the assembled crowd of cadets. There were perhaps 3,000 new students, representing over 200 species from across the galaxy. Marcus found himself automatically calculating sight lines, exit points, and defensive positions, a habit he had developed during his tactical training. Commandant Vexthor took the stage, his presence commanding immediate silence. The Kylari commander was a legend, a veteran of 17 campaigns who had personally led the defense of the Outer Rim colonies during the Void Incursion. His 4 arms bore the scars of countless battles, and his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "You stand here today because you represent the finest warriors your worlds have to offer," Vexthor began, his words translated instantly into every language through neural implants all cadets received upon arrival. "But understand this. What made you exceptional on your homeworlds means nothing here. At the Galactic Defense Institute, you are all equal. Equally untested, equally unproven, equally worthless until you demonstrate otherwise." Marcus listened intently, absorbing every word. He had studied Vexthor's career, read every available tactical analysis of his campaigns. The Commandant was not known for mercy or patience, but he was known for fairness. If you proved yourself, species didn't matter. Over the next 4 years, you will be forged into the defenders of civilization. Vexthor continued. Many of you will fail. Some of you will be injured. A few of you may die, though we take every precaution to prevent such outcomes. Those who succeed will join the most elite fighting force in galactic history. The Commandant's eyes swept across the assembly, and for a brief moment Marcus could have sworn they locked onto him specifically. There are those among you who come from species with no warrior tradition, who come from worlds where survival was easy, where evolution did not demand strength. I say to you now, if you are here, you have earned the right to try. Whether you have the ability to succeed remains to be seen. The message was clear to everyone in the hall. The Commandant was talking about the human. After the ceremony, cadets were assigned to their barracks. Marcus found himself in Division 17, which housed 50 cadets from various species. The sleeping quarters were designed to accommodate different physiological needs with adjustable gravity zones, atmospheric regulators, and thermal controls. Marcus's assigned space was in the standard section, shared with species who had similar environmental requirements. His bunkmate was a Vexian named Crixol, a lean hunter with silver fur and amber eyes that seemed to glow in dim light. Crixol had been watching Marcus since they entered the barracks, his tail twitching with barely concealed amusement. "So, you are the human," Crixol said, his translated voice carrying a purring quality, "the one everyone is talking about." "I guess so," Marcus replied, stowing his gear in the designated locker. "Name's Marcus. I am Crixol of the Southern Pride Lands. I have hunted stalkers in the Crimson Wastes and brought down a thunder beast with nothing but a spear." The Vexian's whiskers twitched. "Tell me, human, what have you hunted?" Marcus straightened, meeting the alien's gaze directly. "Nothing that would impress you. We don't have many dangerous predators left on Earth. We hunted most of them to extinction thousands of years ago." A ripple of laughter moved through the nearby cadets who had been listening. Crixol's ears flattened slightly. "You make jokes, good. You will need humor when the training breaks you." "Maybe," Marcus said calmly. "Or maybe humans are tougher than you think." "We shall see," Crixol replied, turning away. "We shall see." That night, as the lights dimmed and the barracks settled into an uneasy quiet, Marcus lay on his bunk and stared at the ceiling. He could hear whispered conversations in a dozen languages, could sense the doubt and contempt directed his way. They saw him as weak, as prey, as someone who didn't belong. Let them think that, he told himself. Let them underestimate what humans could do. They would learn soon enough that humanity hadn't climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by being weak. They had done it by being smart, by being adaptable, by being absolutely relentless in pursuit of their goals. The first real test would come tomorrow when combat assessments began. Marcus closed his eyes and focused on his breathing, preparing his mind and body for what lay ahead. He had not come this far to fail. He had not become the first human at the Galactic Defense Institute, just to wash out in the first week. Tomorrow he would show them what humans were made of. Tomorrow the real education would begin, not just for him but for every alien who thought they already knew everything about the species called humanity. The alarm shrieked through the barracks at what felt like the middle of the night, though Marcus's internal chronometer told him it was exactly 0500 station time. Around him cadets stirred, some moving with military precision while others groaned and stumbled from their bunks. Marcus was already up, having woken 15 minutes early, as was his habit. He had learned long ago that being prepared gave you an edge, even if only a small one. The morning routine was deliberately chaotic, designed to stress the cadets and identify those who couldn't handle pressure. They had 12 minutes to dress, clean their spaces, and form up in the central courtyard. Marcus moved efficiently, every motion practiced and economical. He noticed several of the larger species struggling with the time constraint, their massive frames requiring more time to maneuver through the standard-sized corridors. Crixol moved like liquid, his Vexian agility allowing him to be ready in under 5 minutes. He watched Marcus with those unsettling amber eyes, perhaps expecting the human to stumble or fail. Marcus ignored him, focusing on his own preparation. The courtyard was a massive open space surrounded by towering walls that seemed to stretch up forever. 3,000 cadets formed into their respective divisions, creating a sea of different shapes, sizes, and colors. Instructors prowled the ranks, their experienced eyes searching for any sign of weakness or disorder. Marcus stood at attention in Division 17's formation, his posture perfect despite the thin atmosphere making his lungs work harder than normal. Instructor Drakmar, a Thorian whose stone-like body bore cracks from countless battles, stood before them. His voice rumbled like an avalanche. "Today you will face the Combat Assessment Gauntlet. This will establish your baseline capabilities and determine your initial training track. There is no way to prepare. There is no way to cheat. You will face the gauntlet as you are, and we will see what you are truly made of." The gauntlet, Marcus had learned from his research, was a series of physical and mental challenges designed to push cadets to their absolute limits. It was said that the course adapted to each species' capabilities, ensuring that everyone was tested equally regardless of their natural advantages. Division 17 was scheduled for the afternoon session, which gave Marcus time to observe other divisions as they went through. He watched from the observation deck as cadets faced obstacles that seemed impossible, walls that required incredible strength to climb, pits filled with simulated combat scenarios, puzzle rooms that demanded split-second tactical thinking under stress. The casualties weren't fatal, but they were significant. Marcus watched as a Kalari cadet broke two of his arms attempting to lift a massive weight that was calibrated specifically for his species' strength level. A Kixel failed a timed puzzle and was eliminated from the assessment. Dozens of cadets were carried out on medical stretchers, their bodies pushed beyond their limits. "Frightened human?" a voice asked beside him. Marcus turned to find a female Zenthari cadet, her crystalline features reflecting the light in strange patterns. Her name, according to her uniform designation, was Cyrell. Concerned, Marcus admitted honestly, but not frightened. Fear doesn't help. Cyrell's features shifted in what might have been surprise or respect. "Your species is known for emotional responses. I am told humans feel fear more intensely than most." "We do," Marcus agreed, "but we're also good at functioning despite it. You could say we have a lot of practice." When Division 17's turn finally came, Marcus felt his heart rate increase. Not panic, just his body preparing itself for extreme exertion. He had trained for this, had pushed himself to the edge of human capability and then pushed further. Now he would find out if it was enough. The division entered the gauntlet complex through a massive doorway that sealed behind them with a hiss of hydraulics. They found themselves in a large chamber with 17 different entrance portals, each marked with a division number. As Marcus approached his designated portal, a holographic interface appeared before him. Cadet Marcus Chen. Species: human. Homeworld: Earth. Assessment beginning in 10 seconds. Note: course has been calibrated for human baseline capabilities. Prepare yourself. The portal opened and Marcus stepped through into darkness. For a moment there was nothing, and then lights blazed to life, revealing a chamber that stretched ahead into a series of connected rooms. The first challenge appeared immediately. A wall stood before him, smooth and featureless, stretching up about 15 feet. For the larger, stronger species, this would be a trivial obstacle. For Marcus, it represented a real challenge. He studied the wall quickly, noting that it wasn't completely smooth. There were slight variations in the surface, barely noticeable irregularities that could serve as hand and footholds if he was careful enough. Marcus backed up, took a running start, and leaped. His fingers caught the first hold and he began to climb. His muscles burned as he pulled himself up, each movement calculated and precise. He couldn't rely on brute strength like a Kailari, so he had to rely on technique, on leverage, on making his body do more with less. He cleared the wall and dropped down into the next chamber, rolling to absorb the impact as he had been taught. The next challenge was already waiting. A series of platforms suspended over what appeared to be a pit of energy. The platforms moved, floating in random patterns. Marcus would have to time his jumps perfectly to cross. He watched the pattern for several seconds, his mind automatically calculating trajectories and timing windows. This was where humanity's enhanced pattern recognition and predictive modeling gave him an advantage. His brain, evolved to throw objects with precision and predict the movement of prey, excelled at this type of spatial reasoning. Marcus made his first jump, landing smoothly on a moving platform. Then another and another. One platform required him to leap backward, trusting his calculation without being able to see his landing spot. He made it barely, his heel hanging off the edge for a heart-stopping moment before he regained his balance. The third chamber contained what appeared to be a combat simulation. 3 holographic opponents materialized, each one modeling a different alien species. The system's voice echoed through the room. "Defeat or disable all opponents. Weapons will be provided." A rack of various weapons appeared along one wall. Marcus scanned them quickly, recognizing most from his studies. There were plasma rifles, kinetic accelerators, bladed weapons of various designs, and energy shields. He made his choices quickly, grabbing a short blade and a small energy shield. The other species might rely on ranged weapons or brute force. Marcus would use what humans had always used: tactics and adaptability. The first opponent, a simulated Thorian, charged at him with crushing force. Marcus didn't try to meet strength with strength. Instead, he dodged, using the Thorian's momentum against it, directing it into a wall where it crashed with satisfying force. The second opponent, a Vexian simulation, was faster, its claws swiping at him with lethal intent. Marcus activated his shield, catching the claws and then striking at the exposed joints he had memorized during his research. The simulation flickered and deactivated. The third opponent was a Kylari, with 4 arms each wielding a weapon. This was the real test. Marcus couldn't overpower it, couldn't outreach it. He had to outthink it. He feinted left, then rolled right, coming up inside the Kylari's guard. At close range, those 4 arms became a hindrance, getting in each other's way. Marcus struck precisely at the neural pressure points he had studied, and the simulation collapsed. The chambers continued, each one presenting a new challenge. There were puzzles that tested tactical thinking, obstacles that demanded endurance, simulations that evaluated decision-making under stress. Marcus lost track of time, his entire world narrowing to the next challenge, the next test, the next opportunity to prove himself. He was exhausted, his muscles screaming, his lungs burning from the sustained effort in the thin atmosphere, but he kept going. Humans were endurance hunters capable of pursuing prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. That same stubborn refusal to quit now drove him forward. The final chamber was different from the others. It contained only a single pedestal with a holographic interface. The system's voice returned. Final assessment, command decision. You are leading a small unit in hostile territory. You have received intelligence that an enemy stronghold contains both high-value military assets and civilian prisoners. You have the resources to accomplish only one objective: destroy the military assets or rescue the civilians. Choose. Marcus stared at the interface. This wasn't a test of physical capability. This was a test of character, of values, of the kind of leader he would become. He thought about everything he had learned about the Galactic Coalition, about the purpose of the Defense Institute, about why he had come here in the first place. He made his choice, entering it into the interface with steady hands. The system acknowledged his decision without comment, and then the entire gauntlet complex powered down. A door opened at the far end of the chamber, leading back to the main facility. Marcus stumbled through, his legs barely supporting him. Medical personnel waited on the other side, scanning each cadet as they emerged. A Zenthari medic examined him quickly. The first month at the Galactic Defense Institute passed in a blur of brutal training sessions, classroom instruction, and carefully controlled combat exercises. Marcus found himself falling into a rhythm, his body adapting to the demands placed upon it even as his mind absorbed tactical theory, xenobiology, and the complex politics of the Galactic Coalition. The assessment results had been posted after 3 days. Marcus had ranked in the middle of his division, which was better than most had expected for a human, but nowhere near the top performers. Crixel had placed 3rd overall, while a massive Kylari named Vornak had taken first place with a combination of raw power and surprising tactical acumen. A Zenthari named Talos, whose crystalline body allowed for enhanced computational abilities, had secured 2nd place by completing the puzzle sections in record time. But rankings were fluid at the Institute. They changed weekly based on performance in various exercises, and cadets were constantly jockeying for position. More importantly, the real measure of success wasn't individual achievement but how well you performed as part of a unit. The instructors had made that clear from day one. Today marked the beginning of team exercises. Division 17 was divided into 5 squads of 10 cadets each, carefully balanced to include a variety of species and capabilities. Marcus found himself assigned to Squad 3, along with Crixel, a Kixel heavy weapons specialist named Grix, a Zenthari engineer named Sorel, who Marcus had spoken with before the assessment, 2 Vexian scouts, a Thorian defender called Rockmar, and 3 other cadets from species Marcus was still learning about. Their first team exercise was a simple extraction scenario. Squad 3 would enter a simulated hostile zone, locate and secure a high-value target, and extract them to a safe zone within a 30-minute time limit. The training area was a massive holographic environment that could simulate any terrain or condition. For this exercise, it had been programmed as an urban environment with active hostile forces. Instructor Drakmar briefed them in his grinding voice. This exercise will test your ability to function as a cohesive unit. You will face opposition designed to challenge your combined capabilities. Communication is essential. Individual heroics will result in failure. You have 5 minutes to plan before insertion. The squad gathered in a tight circle, Krixal immediately began speaking, his natural confidence asserting itself. I will lead the scouting element with the other Vexians. Our speed and senses will allow us to identify threats and locate the target quickly. Grix, the Kixel whose compact body nevertheless contained immense strength, rumbled in agreement. I will provide suppressing fire if we encounter resistance. My species can handle recoil that would break most others. Rockmar the Thorian spoke in a voice like grinding stones. I will form the defensive front. Projectiles cannot easily penetrate my hide. They all looked at Marcus, and he could see the unspoken question in their eyes. What could the human contribute? He didn't have Vexian speed, Kixel strength, Thorian durability, or Zenthari computational power. What role could he possibly fill that wasn't already better served by someone else? Marcus took a breath, choosing his words carefully. I've been studying human military history. My species fought wars on our homeworld for thousands of years, developing tactics for asymmetric warfare. I can coordinate the squad, identify patterns in enemy behavior, and adapt our strategy in real time. Krixal's ears flicked skeptically. You wish to lead? You who barely passed the assessment? Not lead, Marcus clarified. Coordinate. There's a difference. Each of you has strengths I don't have, but someone needs to be looking at the whole picture, making sure we're working together instead of just working in parallel. Cyrel's crystalline features flickered with thought. His species is known for pattern recognition and strategic thinking. Human military history shows a preference for combined arms tactics and adaptive strategies. It may be worth attempting. There was a moment of tense silence. Then Rockmar spoke. We have limited time. Let us try the humans' approach. If it fails, we will know for next time. It wasn't exactly a vote of confidence, but it was enough. Marcus quickly outlined a plan. The Vexian scouts would advance ahead, using their natural stealth to identify enemy positions and locate the target. Rockmar would form the center of their formation, with Grix providing heavy fire support from behind that mobile cover. Cyrel would handle any technical obstacles like locked doors or disabled equipment. The remaining squad members would provide flexible response to whatever threats emerged. The insertion began smoothly. The squad materialized in a simulated alleyway, surrounded by tall buildings that created a maze of potential ambush points. The Vexian scouts disappeared almost instantly, their forms blending with shadows as they moved ahead. Marcus stayed in the center of the formation, monitoring the tactical display on his helmet's heads-up interface. The display showed the positions of all squad members and updated in real time as the scouts fed back information. Contact, one of the Vexian scouts whispered over the comm. 4 hostile units 2 blocks ahead. Appear to be in defensive positions around a central structure. Marcus processed this quickly. That's probably where the target is. Can you identify a route that avoids the main defensive line? Negative. The area's locked down. We will have to go through them. This was the moment that would define whether Marcus's approach would work. Okay, here's what we do. Scouts, I need you to create a distraction on the eastern approach. Make noise, fire a few shots, make them think that's our main attack vector. Grix, Rockmar, you'll lead the actual assault from the west while they're distracted. Cyrel, you're with me on the southern approach. We'll use the chaos to slip through and reach the target directly. There was a pause. Then Krixal's voice came through, tinged with what might have been amusement. A deception tactic. Very well, human. Let us see if it works. The plan unfolded with surprising precision. The Vexian scouts created a convincing distraction, drawing the simulated enemy's attention and fire. When Grix and Rockmar launched their assault from the opposite direction, the enemy forces were caught off balance, trying to respond to threats from multiple directions. Marcus and Cyrel moved quickly through the confusion, encountering minimal resistance as they reached the central structure. The target was inside, guarded by 2 final defenders. Cyrel disabled the door lock while Marcus positioned himself for quick entry. They burst through together, Marcus firing his training weapon with precision while Cyrel used an energy pulse to stun the second guard. The target, a holographic representation of a wounded Kylari officer, was secured within seconds. Target acquired. Marcus reported over the comm. Extraction route? North is clear now, Krixal responded. We neutralized the defenders in this sector. Copy that. Everyone converge on our position. We move together to extraction point. The squad reassembled and began moving toward the safe zone. That's when the exercise threw its curveball. Additional enemy forces appeared more than before, moving to cut off their escape route. The simulation was testing their ability to adapt under pressure. Marcus's mind raced. They couldn't fight their way through that many enemies, especially while protecting an injured target. They needed another approach. His eyes scanned the tactical display, looking for any advantage. Then he saw it, a series of underground maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the city streets. "Cyril, can you access those tunnels?" he asked quickly. Her features flickered as she processed. "Yes, but they are not designed for squad movement. They will be cramped. Cramped is better than dead. Everyone into the tunnels. Grix, you'll have to leave the heavy weapons. Rukmar, you'll need to compress your form." There were grumbles, but they moved. The squad descended into the tunnels, which were indeed barely large enough for some of them. Rukmar had to partially fold his stone-like body, something that clearly caused him discomfort. But they moved quickly, using the tunnel network to bypass the enemy forces entirely. They emerged 3 blocks from the extraction point, behind the enemy lines. A quick sprint brought them to the safe zone with 2 minutes to spare. The simulation ended and the holographic environment dissolved, leaving them standing in the plane training room. Instructor Drakmar had been observing everything. He approached the squad with his characteristic slow, deliberate steps. Analysis. You completed the objective within the time limit. You adapted to unexpected complications. You worked as a unit rather than as individuals. He paused, his stone-like features unreadable. This was acceptable performance. Coming from Drakmar, that was practically high praise. The squad exchanged glances and Marcus saw something shift in their expressions. They had succeeded, and they had done it by working together, by trusting each other's strengths. Crixall approached Marcus as they left the training area. "Your coordination was effective, human. The distraction tactic was particularly clever." "It's an old human strategy," Marcus explained. "We call it misdirection. Make the enemy focus on what you want them to see while you accomplish your real objective somewhere else." "Humans have many such strategies?" Rukmar asked, his voice rumbling with curiosity. "Thousands of years' worth," Marcus confirmed. "My species has a saying, necessity is the mother of invention." The 3rd month at the Institute brought the introduction of advanced combat simulations, and with them came the first real test of everything the cadets had learned. The war games, as they were officially called, would pit entire divisions against each other in complex scenarios that could last for days. Strategy, endurance, adaptability, and unit cohesion would all be pushed to their absolute limits. Division 17 gathered in one of the massive briefing halls, where Commandant Vexthor himself would outline the parameters of the games. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and nervousness. These games could make or break a cadet's reputation, and everyone knew it. Vexthor's 4 arms gestured to the holographic display that materialized behind him, showing a sprawling landscape of mountains, forests, and scattered settlements. "This is the contested zone. For the next 72 hours, 3 divisions will compete for control of strategic objectives within this territory. Division 17 will face Division 9 and Division 23. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Division 9 was composed primarily of Kailari heavy assault specialists, and had dominated every team exercise since the beginning of training. Division 23 was known for its Zenthari tactical units, whose enhanced computational abilities made them formidable strategists. Division 17 was considered the underdog, a mixed unit without any particular specialty. "The objectives are simple," Vexthor continued. "Capture and hold 3 primary strategic points: the comm relay station on Mount Kral, the supply depot in the Central Valley, and the command bunker near the northern forest. Points are awarded for captures, successful defenses, and tactical achievements. The division with the most points at the end of 72 hours wins." The briefing continued with technical details about the simulation parameters, available resources, and rules of engagement. All combat would be simulated with training weapons that registered hits without causing real injury, but the exhaustion, the terrain, and the tactical challenges would be entirely real. After the briefing, Division 17's senior cadets gathered to plan their approach. Squad 3 had earned enough respect that Marcus was included in these planning sessions, along with Crixall and several other high-performing cadets. Their division commander for the games was a 4th-year cadet named Zektor, a veteran Kailari who had distinguished himself in previous competitions. Zektor's scarred features showed concern as he studied the terrain map. Division 9 will go for the direct approach. They will push hard for the command bunker and use their strength to hold it. Division 23 will likely secure the comm relay first, using it to gather intelligence on our movements, which leaves us fighting over the supply depot, added Vorin, a tactical specialist from Squad 2. Or trying to challenge one of the other objectives directly, which plays to our opponent's strengths. Marcus studied the map silently, his mind working through possibilities. There was something about the terrain that nagged at him, a pattern he couldn't quite identify. Then it clicked. The three objectives formed a triangle, and the supply depot in the center could provide logistical support to whoever held it. But there was a fourth location, unmarked on the objective list, that might be even more valuable. What about this? Marcus pointed to a narrow pass between two mountains, a natural choke point that connected the northern and southern sections of the contested zone. It's not listed as an objective, but whoever controls this pass controls movement across the entire zone. If we hold it, we can prevent either opponent from reinforcing their positions or launching coordinated attacks. Zektor's eyes narrowed as he studied the location. It is not an official objective. We would gain no points for holding it. No direct points, Marcus agreed. But it would force the other divisions to fight each other for the objectives while we control their ability to maneuver. We could choose when and where to engage, forcing them to come to us on our terms. Cyril's crystalline features pulsed as she processed the strategy. The human proposes a force multiplier. By controlling movement, we compensate for our lack of specialized strength. It is mathematically sound. Crixall leaned forward, his tail swishing with interest. A trap. We turn the entire zone into a hunting ground where we control the paths. I like this plan. Not everyone was convinced. Vorin shook his head. This is too passive. We need to score points, not just prevent others from scoring. We will score points, Marcus countered. But on our schedule, not theirs. We let Division 9 and 23 exhaust themselves fighting for the objectives. When they're weakened, we strike from the pass, take an objective, and retreat back to our defensive position before they can respond effectively. Zektor was silent for a long moment, his forearms crossed in thought. Finally he spoke. It is unconventional. It relies on patience and discipline, which are not our division's traditional strengths. But the human has proven his tactical thinking before. We will attempt this strategy. When the war games began, Division 17 moved quickly to secure the mountain pass. It was exactly as Marcus had described. A narrow corridor with high walls on either side that created a natural defensive position. They established fortifications, set up observation posts on the high ground, and created fallback positions in case they were overwhelmed. From their vantage point, they watched as Division 9 launched a massive assault on the command bunker, exactly as predicted. Division 23 moved with precision to capture the comm relay, establishing it within the first 6 hours. The supply depot remained uncontested, sitting like bait in the center of the zone. They will realize the depot is vulnerable. Rukmar rumbled from his position at the main defensive line. One of them will move for it. Let them, Marcus replied, studying the tactical displays. The depot is exposed, hard to defend. Whoever takes it first will have to fight to keep it. His prediction proved accurate. Division 9, having secured the bunker, sent a contingent to claim the supply depot. Division 23 immediately contested them, and a fierce battle erupted in the valley. Training weapons flashed, simulated explosions rocked the terrain, and cadets from both divisions fought with everything they had. Division 17 watched and waited. Several cadets grew restless, eager to join the fight, but Zektor held them in position, trusting Marcus's strategy. Discipline, the commander reminded them. We strike when the moment is right, not before. The battle for the depot lasted 8 hours. Division 9 eventually drove off Division 23, but at a cost. Their forces were exhausted, supplies depleted, and their defensive positions weakened. They consolidated at the depot, reorganizing for their next move. Now, Marcus said quietly. They're vulnerable now, Zektor nodded. Squad 3, Squad 5, prepare for rapid assault. We take the comm relay while Division 23 is falling back, and Division 9 is recovering. Move fast, hit hard, disappear back to the pass before they can respond. The strike force moved out, using paths that Marcus had identified during his study of the terrain. They approached the comm relay from an unexpected direction, catching Division 23's weakened garrison off guard. The Zenthari fought with their characteristic precision, but they were outnumbered and already exhausted from the depot battle. Within an hour, Division 17 had captured the relay and was already withdrawing. Division 23 attempted pursuit, but they ran directly into the defensive positions at the pass. Grix's heavy weapons fire forced them back, and Rockmar's immovable defensive line made any direct assault costly. After several failed attempts, Division 23 withdrew to lick their wounds. The scoreboard updated. Division 17 had scored points for capturing an objective and successfully defending their position. They weren't in first place yet, but they were no longer the expected losers. The second day of the game saw both opposing divisions change their tactics. They recognized the threat that Division 17's position represented and began coordinating their efforts to break through the pass. It was exactly what Marcus had hoped they would do. By forcing them to focus on his division, he was preventing them from fighting each other for the remaining objectives. The attacks came in waves. Division 9 sent their strongest fighters in a frontal assault, while Division 23 tried to find alternate routes through the mountains. Every attack was repelled, but the cost was mounting. Cadets from Division 17 were being eliminated as their training weapons registered fatal hits. Their numbers were dwindling. Zektor pulled Marcus aside during a brief lull in the fighting. "We cannot hold indefinitely. Our forces are depleting faster than theirs." Marcus had been thinking the same thing. "Then we need to change the game again. They expect us to defend. What if we don't? Explain. We abandon the pass. We let them think they've broken through, that we're retreating. Then we split our forces, half head for the command bunker, while Division 9 is focused on pursuing us. The other half circles back and retakes the comm relay after Division 23 moves forward. It was risky, requiring precise timing and coordination. If either strike failed, Division 17 would be scattered and vulnerable. But staying on the defensive would only lead to slow defeat. Zektor's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. The victory in the war games had fundamentally changed Marcus's experience at the Institute. No longer was he the curiosity, the weak human who didn't belong. Now he was sought out for his tactical insights, his ability to see patterns and possibilities that others missed. But with that recognition came new challenges, and none more significant than what was about to unfold. The 6th month of training brought the introduction of specialized combat scenarios, and with them came the Academy's most controversial tradition, the trial of proving. Every cadet would face a personalized challenge designed to test not just their skills, but their character, their resolve, and their ability to function under conditions that pushed them to their absolute breaking point. The trials were administered individually, and no one knew what they would face until they entered the chamber. What made them particularly daunting was that they were designed to exploit each species' specific weaknesses. A Zenthari might face scenarios that disrupted their computational abilities. A Vexian might be placed in conditions that neutralized their speed and agility. A Thorian might encounter threats that bypassed their physical armor to target their vulnerabilities. For Marcus, the anticipation was worse than any previous challenge. What weakness would the trial exploit? Humans had so many compared to the other species. Would it be his limited strength? His lack of natural weapons? His relative fragility? When his turn came, Marcus entered the trial chamber alone. The space was vast and empty. Walls a neutral gray that gave no hints about what was to come. A holographic interface materialized before him, and Commandant Vexthor's voice filled the space. "Cadet Chen, your trial will test the aspect of humanity that is both your greatest strength and your most significant liability, your capacity for emotional attachment and empathy." There was a pause, heavy with meaning. "Remember, everything you experience in this trial is simulated. But your responses, your choices, and your actions are very real. Begin." The chamber transformed. Marcus found himself standing in a recreation of a human city, buildings rising around him in familiar architecture. But something was wrong. The sky was dark with smoke, and the distant sound of explosions echoed through the streets. This was a city under attack. A tactical display appeared in his vision, showing him the situation. An enemy force had broken through planetary defenses and was advancing on a civilian population center. Marcus was in command of a small defensive unit, vastly outnumbered and outgunned. His mission parameters were clear: delay the enemy advance long enough for civilians to evacuate. The simulation was brutally realistic. Marcus could hear screams in the distance, could smell the acrid smoke, could feel the tremors as explosions rocked nearby buildings. His unit materialized around him, a mixed group of soldiers that included humans and several alien species he recognized from the academy. "Commander, what are your orders?" asked his second-in-command, a human woman with sergeant's stripes. Marcus assessed the situation quickly. The enemy would be here in minutes. His force was too small to stop them, too slow to retreat, but there were civilians still in the buildings around them, families that hadn't made it to the evacuation points. Establish defensive positions at the intersection ahead. Concentrate fire on their advance units. We need to buy time. The battle began almost immediately. Enemy forces appeared, their weapons tearing into Marcus's defensive line. He coordinated his troops, directing fire, calling out targets, trying to make every shot count. But they were being overwhelmed. One by one, his soldiers fell, their training weapons registering fatal hits. Then a transmission came through. "Commander, this is evacuation point Alpha. We have a problem. There's a group of about 50 civilians trapped in a collapsed building 2 blocks from your position. They can't get out on their own." Marcus felt his stomach drop. 2 blocks. That was practically on top of his defensive position. If he pulled forces to help with the rescue, his line would collapse and the enemy would push through. But if he didn't help, those civilians would die. "How long to extract them?" he asked. 15 minutes minimum, maybe 20. Marcus looked at his dwindling forces. He had maybe 10 soldiers left combat effective. The enemy was already flanking their position. There was no way they could hold for 20 more minutes unless all units fall back to the collapsed building. We're going to fortify that position and conduct the rescue simultaneously. "Sir, that building is a terrible defensive position. We'll be surrounded." "I know. Do it anyway." They moved, and Marcus hated every second of it. He was condemning his people to almost certain death. But as they reached the building, he understood why this was his trial. The simulation was forcing him to choose between military logic and human compassion, between strategic sense and emotional response. His troops established a perimeter around the building, while others worked to free the trapped civilians. The enemy closed in, sensing weakness. Fire came from 3 directions, and Marcus's people died trying to hold the line. The sergeant who had questioned his orders took a hit protecting a civilian she was pulling from the rubble. She went down with a smile, knowing she had saved a life. Marcus fought alongside them, his training weapon almost empty, his body screaming with exhaustion. They got 30 civilians out, then 40. The defensive perimeter collapsed on the east side, and enemy forces pushed through. Marcus redirected the last of his troops to buy just a few more seconds. 45 civilians evacuated. 48. 50. All civilians clear. Someone shouted. "Everyone fall back to secondary evac point," Marcus ordered. But there was no falling back. The enemy had them surrounded. His remaining soldiers, just 3 of them now, formed a final defensive position. They would die here, but the civilians would live. The simulation froze. Marcus stood among the holographic bodies of his fallen troops, breathing hard, his weapons still raised toward enemies that no longer moved. He had failed the military objective. The enemy had pushed through. The delay had been insufficient. By any tactical measure, he had lost, but the civilians had survived. The simulation dissolved, and Marcus found himself back in the empty chamber. Commandant Vexthor appeared, walking slowly toward him. The ancient warrior's expression was unreadable. "You failed your primary objective," Vexthor stated flatly. "Yes, sir," Marcus acknowledged. "You lost your entire unit." "Yes, sir. You chose emotion over tactics, compassion over strategic necessity." Marcus met the commandant's gaze directly. "Yes, sir, I did." Vexthor was silent for a long moment. Then unexpectedly he nodded. "And that is precisely why humanity will be valuable to the Galactic Defense Forces. Tell me, Cadet, what did you learn from this trial?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I learned that there isn't always a clean tactical solution. Sometimes you have to make impossible choices and you have to live with the consequences. I learned that my instinct will always be to protect the innocent, even at great cost. And I learned that I need to find ways to do both, to be better at reconciling military necessity with human compassion." "A mature answer," Vexthor said. "Many species have forgotten why we fight. They focus on victory, on defeating enemies, on tactical superiority. They forget that the purpose of defense is to protect. not merely to destroy. Your species has not forgotten this. You carry it in your very nature. He gestured, and a display appeared showing Marcus's performance. Your trial was not about winning. It was about revealing who you are under pressure. You are a soldier who will fight with everything you have, but you are also a protector who will sacrifice yourself for those who cannot fight. Both qualities are needed in the galaxy we face. But I lost my entire unit, Marcus protested. In a real situation, those deaths would be on my hands. Perhaps, Vex Thor agreed. Or perhaps your willingness to risk everything for civilians would inspire your troops to fight harder, to be better, to remember their purpose. Leadership is not just about tactics, Cadet. It is about values, about showing others what is worth fighting for. The Commandant turned to leave, then paused. Your trial revealed something else, something that my species learned long ago and sometimes forgets. The willingness to die for others is the foundation of true strength. Physical power means nothing if you do not know what you are willing to die to protect. After Vex Thor left, Marcus remained in the chamber for a long time, processing what had happened. He thought about the simulated soldiers who had died following his orders, about the civilians who had lived because of those deaths. It was just a simulation, but the emotional weight felt entirely real. When he finally emerged, he found Crixall waiting outside. The Vexian took one look at his face and understood. Difficult trial. The worst, Marcus admitted. Come, the others are waiting. We will share our experiences and perhaps they will help. In the common area, Squad 3 had gathered. One by one, they shared their trials. Grix had faced a scenario where his strength was useless, where he had to rely on finesse and precision. Cyrell had encountered problems that couldn't be solved through computation, requiring intuitive leaps instead. Rockmar had been placed in situations where his immovable defense actually endangered those he was trying to protect. Each trial had been personalized, designed to challenge the core assumptions each species made about their own capabilities. And each cadet had learned something about themselves, about their limits, and about how to grow beyond them. When Marcus shared his trial, the others listened in silence. Crixall was the first to speak. You chose to save them, even knowing you would lose everything. I couldn't leave them, Marcus said simply. Of course not, Cyrell added, her crystalline features pulsing softly. You are human. This is your nature. It is not weakness, though it may sometimes feel that way. It is a different form of strength. Rockmar rumbled in agreement. My people value endurance, the ability to stand firm no matter what comes. We thought this was the ultimate strength. But I am learning there are many forms of strength. The strength to hold your ground, yes, but also the strength to sacrifice yourself for others. Both are needed. The conversation continued late into the night, squad members sharing insights and perspectives from their diverse backgrounds. Marcus realized something profound was happening. They were no longer just cadets from different species thrown together by academy assignments. They were becoming a true unit, learning from each other, growing stronger through their differences rather than despite them. The next morning brought a surprise. Posted throughout the academy were the trial results, not with pass or fail marks, but with commendations for specific demonstrated qualities. Marcus found his name listed under Exemplary Protective Leadership. Crixall was commended for adaptive problem-solving, Cyrell for intuitive strategic thinking. But more significant than the individual commendations was what appeared at the bottom of the list. Squad 3 had been designated as a candidate unit for advanced tactical training, an honor given only to squads that demonstrated exceptional cohesion and complementary capabilities. We did it, Grix rumbled, his compact form practically vibrating with pride. All of us together. Not just us, Marcus said, looking around at the diverse faces of his squad mates. Every species here brings something unique, something valuable. That's the real lesson. We're stronger together than any of us could be alone. Crixall's whiskers twitched in amusement. The human speaks wisdom. Perhaps we should let him do all the talking from now on. Please don't, Marcus laughed. I'm still figuring this out as I go. Are we not all? Cyrell asked philosophically. Is that not the purpose of this place? To figure out not just how to fight, but why to fight and who to fight beside. Looking at his squad, at the aliens who had become his teammates and friends, Marcus understood that his journey at the Galactic Defense Institute had never really been about proving that humans belonged. It had been about discovering that belonging wasn't something you proved, it was something you built. One relationship at a time, one shared struggle at a time, one moment of mutual respect at a time. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, their own values and traditions. But here, in this moment, Marcus had found his place among them, not as a human trying to match alien capabilities, but as himself, bringing his uniquely human perspective to a team that was greater than the sum of its parts, and that, he reflected, was the real victory. The final months at the Galactic Defense Institute moved with an intensity that made the earlier challenges seem like preparation exercises. The cadets who remained, those who had survived the grueling training and the revelatory trials, now faced their ultimate test, the graduation exercise. This would be no simulation. Instead, each graduating division would be deployed to an actual crisis situation somewhere in the galaxy, operating under real conditions with genuine consequences. The briefing came on a cold morning when frost patterns decorated the crystalline walls of the academy. Division 17 assembled in the Tactical Operations Center, where Commandant Vexthor waited with several high-ranking officers from the Galactic Defense Forces. Division 17, Vexthor began, his forearms crossed in formal position. You have earned the right to participate in a live operation. The outer colonies in the Sarian system have reported coordinated attacks on their settlements. The attackers appear to be raiders, but their tactics and equipment suggest possible backing from hostile elements seeking to destabilize coalition territory. A holographic star map appeared, showing the Sarian system with multiple planets marked in red. Your mission is threefold. First, protect the civilian populations from further attacks. Second, identify the source of these raids and determine if there is a larger threat. Third, capture or neutralize the raiders while minimizing casualties on all sides. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward. Not a test or a simulation, but actual lives depending on their actions. You will deploy in 6 hours, Vexthor continued. Your division commander will be Cadet Zektor, who has demonstrated exceptional leadership throughout your training. Squad assignments and tactical roles will be determined en route. You are authorized to use all necessary force, but remember that you represent not just the Institute, but the entire Galactic Coalition. Your actions will be observed and evaluated. After the briefing, Division 17 scattered to prepare. Marcus found himself in the equipment bay, checking and rechecking his gear. This time the weapons weren't training simulators. They were real, capable of actual harm. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders like a physical burden. Krixal appeared beside him, moving with his characteristic silent grace. Nervous, my friend? Terrified, Marcus admitted honestly. In training, mistakes meant simulated deaths. Now they mean real ones. This is true, the Vexian agreed. But you have proven yourself many times. Trust in your abilities and in those who fight beside you. What if I make the wrong call? What if my tactics get people killed? Krixal placed a clawed hand on Marcus's shoulder. Then you will carry that burden, as all leaders must. But know this, I trust you with my life. So does Rockmar, Sorel, Grix, and every member of Squad 3. We have trained together, bled together, grown together. When the moment comes, we will not fail each other. The transport jump to the Sarian system took 8 hours, during which Zektor organized the division structure and assigned specific missions. Squad 3 was designated as a rapid response unit, tasked with protecting civilian populations and responding to active threats. Marcus would serve as tactical coordinator, his role now officially recognized after months of proving his value. They emerged from jump space to find chaos. 3 colony worlds were under simultaneous attack, with raiders hitting agricultural settlements, mining operations, and trade posts. The attacks showed clear coordination and sophisticated planning, far beyond typical pirate activity. Squad 3, you're deploying to Colony 7. Zektor's voice crackled over the comm. Multiple settlements under attack. Local defense forces are overwhelmed. Your priority is civilian protection and threat neutralization. The dropship descended through Colony 7's atmosphere, a world of vast prairies and scattered settlements. Marcus studied the tactical data flowing across his display. 6 different locations under attack, stretched across hundreds of kilometers. The raiders were using hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and disappearing before defenders could respond. They're trying to spread us thin, Marcus observed. Classic raider strategy. Attack everywhere so defenders can't concentrate their forces. So how do we counter it? Grix asked, his heavy weapons already primed and ready. Marcus thought quickly, his mind racing through everything he had learned about asymmetric warfare. We don't spread out to match them. We identify their most likely target and set a trap. Raiders need supplies and loot to make their attacks worthwhile. Where's the highest value target they haven't hit yet? Sorrel's features pulsed as she processed data. The central distribution hub. It contains processed agricultural goods worth millions and serves as the logistics center for the entire colony. If raiders wanted to cause maximum disruption while acquiring valuable cargo, that would be their primary objective. Then that's where we go, Marcus decided. We evacuate the civilians, fortify the position, and wait for them to come to us. The squad landed at the distribution hub within the hour. It was a sprawling complex of warehouses and processing facilities, currently staffed by about 200 civilian workers. Marcus immediately began coordinating their evacuation, while the squad established defensive positions. Rockmar, you and the heavy defense team establish a perimeter at the main entrance. Crix will take your scouts and find concealed positions with overlapping fields of fire. Sorrel, I need you to access their security systems and set up sensor networks that will give us early warning. Grix, set up your heavy weapons to cover the most likely approach vectors. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency, their months of training showing in every action. Within 30 minutes, the civilians were evacuated and the trap was set. Then came the hardest part, waiting. The raiders arrived an hour later, their ships landing with a confidence that suggested they expected no resistance. There were perhaps 50 of them, a mixed group of different species, all heavily armed and moving with military precision. These weren't desperate pirates, they were professionals. Marcus watched from his concealed position as they approached the hub. His hand hovered over the comm trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. Every instinct screamed at him to spring the trap early to catch them in the open. But he forced himself to wait, to let them commit fully. The raiders reached the main entrance and began setting up equipment to breach the doors. That's when Marcus gave the signal. All units execute. The ambush was devastating. Crixel's scouts opened fire from hidden positions, their precision shots taking down key targets. Crix's heavy weapons raked the raiders' flanks, cutting off their retreat. Rockmar's defense team blocked the main entrance, an immovable wall of stone-like flesh and tactical positioning. But the raiders were good. They recovered quickly, adapting to the ambush with professional discipline. They fell back to their ships, using covering fire to protect their retreat. Some made it, others didn't. Within minutes, the engagement was over, leaving several raiders captured and the rest fleeing into the sky. Marcus emerged from his position, surveying the scene. No casualties on Squad 3's side. Several raiders captured alive, the facility undamaged. By any measure, it was a clean victory. So why did he feel sick to his stomach? Because people had died. Real people, not training simulations. He had given the orders that resulted in those deaths, even if they were enemies, even if they were attacking innocent civilians. The weight of command, so abstract in training, now felt crushingly real. Commander, we have prisoners, Sorrel reported. They are requesting to speak with whoever is in charge. Marcus approached the captured raiders, studying them carefully. They were a mixed group, but their equipment was too good, too uniform. Someone with significant resources was backing them. I'm in charge, Marcus said. Why were you attacking these colonies? One of the raiders, a scarred Kailari with cybernetic enhancements, laughed bitterly. You're just a cadet. They sent children to stop us? We stopped you, Marcus pointed out. Answer the question. The Kailari's expression shifted from contempt to calculation. We're soldiers like you, just fighting for a different paycheck. Someone wants these colonies destabilized, wants the coalition to look weak. We don't know who, don't care. We just follow orders. Marcus felt a chill. This wasn't random raiding. This was the beginning of something larger, a coordinated effort to undermine coalition authority in this sector. The implications were staggering. Cyrell, get this information to Commandant Vexthor immediately, Marcus ordered. We need full intelligence analysis and probably military reinforcement. Over the next 3 days, Division 17 systematically protected the colonies while gathering intelligence. Marcus coordinated multiple squad actions, his tactical thinking proving crucial in predicting and countering raider movements. Squad 3 became the division's most effective unit. their diverse skills and seamless coordination allowing them to respond to threats that would have overwhelmed other squads. But the mission took its toll. There were casualties. A member of Squad 5 was seriously wounded in an ambush. 2 cadets from Squad 1 were killed when raiders destroyed a transport they were escorting. Each loss hit Marcus hard, reminding him that leadership meant accepting responsibility for outcomes he couldn't always control. On the 4th day, Galactic Defense Forces reinforcements arrived, along with intelligence analysts who confirmed Marcus's suspicions. The raids were part of a larger insurgent operation aimed at weakening coalition presence in the outer colonies. Division 17's actions had disrupted those plans and provided crucial information about the insurgents' capabilities and organization. Commandant Vex Thor himself came with the reinforcements. He toured the colonies, inspected Division 17's positions, and interviewed the cadets about their experiences. When he spoke with Marcus, his ancient eyes held something that might have been pride. "You have commanded well, Cadet Chen. Your tactical thinking prevented a catastrophe and saved countless lives." 2 cadets died under my command, sir," Marcus said quietly. You should have what?" Vex Thor interrupted, his voice sharp but not unkind. "Prevented every death? Anticipated every danger? That is not the burden of leadership, cadet. The burden is to make the best decisions you can with the information available, to learn from outcomes both good and bad, and to honor those who fall by continuing to fight for what they believed in." Marcus met the commandant's gaze. "How do you carry it, sir? The weight of all the lives lost under your command." Vex Thor was silent for a moment, his forearms shifting in a gesture Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. "I carry it by remembering why they fought, by ensuring their sacrifice meant something, by being worthy of the trust they placed in me." He paused. "And by accepting that perfect decisions are impossible. We can only strive to be better, to learn, to grow. This is the path of a true warrior." The words didn't make the pain disappear, but they helped Marcus understand it better. Leadership meant carrying the weight of lives lost, but it also meant honoring them by continuing to protect those who remained. The return journey to the Institute was subdued. Division 17 had succeeded in their mission, but the cost had been real. They were no longer cadets playing at being soldiers. They had become something more, tempered by actual combat and the harsh realities of military service. The graduation ceremony took place 1 week later. The surviving members of all graduating divisions assembled in the Grand Hall, that same vast space where Marcus had first stood over a year ago, feeling small and uncertain. Now he stood with confidence, surrounded by beings he had learned to trust with his life. Commandant Vex Thor presided over the ceremony, his presence commanding absolute attention. "You entered this institution as individuals from hundreds of worlds, representing countless species and traditions. You leave as defenders of civilization, united in purpose and tested by fire. Some of you will serve in fleet operations. Others will lead ground forces or provide tactical support. All of you will carry forward the values you have learned here." One by one, divisions were called forward to receive their graduation honors and assignments. When Division 17's turn came, Marcus marched forward with his unit, feeling the weight of everything they had experienced together. The losses, the victories, the moments of doubt and triumph. Division 17, Vex Thor announced, demonstrated exceptional adaptability and strategic innovation throughout their training. Their performance in the Sarion system prevented a major insurgent operation and saved hundreds of civilian lives. This division is hereby awarded the Stellar Cross for exceptional service. A holographic medal appeared above the division, visible to everyone in the hall. It was one of the highest honors the Institute could bestow, rarely given to graduating classes. Marcus felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for every member of Division 17 who had contributed to their success. But Vex Thor wasn't finished. Additionally, Squad 3 of Division 17 has been selected for immediate assignment to the Rapid Response Division of the Galactic Defense Forces. Their unique combination of skills and demonstrated cohesion makes them ideal for operations requiring tactical flexibility and cross-species cooperation. Marcus exchanged glances with Crixall, Sorel, Rockmar, and Grix. They would continue serving together. After everything they had been through, they wouldn't be separated. The relief and joy on their faces mirrored his own feelings. Then Vexthor did something unprecedented. He looked directly at Marcus. "Cadet Chen, step forward." Marcus's heart hammered as he approached the commandant alone. He had no idea what was coming. "When you arrived at this institute," Vexthor said, his voice carrying throughout the hall, "many doubted whether humanity belonged among the galactic warrior species. Your physical capabilities are limited compared to most species here. Your homeworld did not forge you in the fires of extreme survival. You came from what many considered a soft species, unsuited for military service." Marcus felt every eye in the hall upon him. This could go either way. "You have proven those doubts utterly unfounded," Vexthor continued, "not by trying to match other species in strength or speed, but by demonstrating that warfare is as much mental as physical. Your tactical thinking, your ability to adapt and innovate, your understanding that protecting the innocent is as important as defeating the enemy. These are the qualities that define a true warrior." The commandant's forearms moved in a formal salute, something Marcus had never seen him do for a cadet. "You have not only earned your place at this institute, you have reminded all of us why we fight and what it means to be a defender. On behalf of the Galactic Defense Forces, I welcome humanity to our ranks, and I look forward to seeing what your species will accomplish among the stars." The hall erupted in what could only be described as applause, though it came in forms as varied as the species present. Kailari stamped their feet, Vexians trilled their approval, Xanthari's features pulsed with light, and dozens of other species expressed their recognition in their own ways. Marcus stood there overwhelmed by the moment. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, about every doubt and challenge, every moment of fear and determination. He thought about the aliens who had become his friends, his brothers and sisters in arms. He thought about Earth and all the humans who would follow in his footsteps now that the path had been opened. After the ceremony, Squad 3 gathered in their old barracks one last time. Tomorrow they would report to their new assignment, beginning the next chapter of their service. But tonight they wanted to mark this moment together. "To Division 17, Crixall said, raising a container of his homeworld ceremonial drink. "May we honor their sacrifice by living up to the standard they set." "To Squad 3, Rockmar added, his voice rumbling with emotion. "May our bond remain unbreakable, no matter what challenges we face." "To Marcus," Sorel said, her crystalline features glowing softly, "who taught us that strength comes in many forms, and that the smartest warrior often wins where the strongest fails." Marcus raised his own drink, feeling the weight of the moment. "To all of us," he said, "to every species here, every perspective, every unique strength, we're better together than any of us could be alone. That's not just true for us, it's true for the entire galaxy." They drank together, and then Grix spoke up, his usual gruff voice unusually gentle. "Human, when you first arrived, I thought you would not last a week. I am pleased to have been wrong. You have taught me that prejudgment is foolish and that every species has value." "You taught me just as much," Marcus replied honestly. "All of you did. I came here thinking I had to prove humanity belonged. What I learned was that belonging isn't about proving anything, it's about contributing, about being willing to give everything for those who stand beside you." Crixall's tail swished thoughtfully. "My people have a saying, the lone hunter makes the kill but the pride survives. I always interpreted this as meaning individuals should be strong so the group benefits. But now I understand it differently. The pride survives because each member contributes their unique strengths to the whole." "Precisely," Sorel agreed. "My species values computational precision and logical analysis. We thought emotion was weakness, that human attachments were liability. But I have learned that caring deeply about others, being willing to sacrifice for them, creates bonds that make a unit stronger than pure logic ever could." The conversation continued late into the night, each of them sharing what they had learned, how they had grown, and what they hoped for the future. Marcus listened to his squad mates, these beings from worlds he had never seen, species he had only read about in textbooks before coming here. They were different from him in almost every way, yet they had become the closest thing to family he had beyond Earth. As the night drew to a close, Marcus stepped outside onto one of the observation decks. The stars spread across the void, countless points of light representing worlds and civilizations beyond number. Somewhere out there was Earth, his homeworld, looking up at those same stars and wondering what humanity's place would be among them. Now Marcus knew the answer. Humanity's place was wherever humans chose to stand, contributing their unique perspective and abilities to the greater galactic community. They didn't need to be the strongest or the fastest or the toughest. They needed to be themselves, adaptive, creative, compassionate, and absolutely determined to protect what they valued. Crixall joined him on the deck, standing in companionable silence for a moment before speaking. "What are you thinking about, my friend?" "Everything," Marcus admitted. "A year ago I was alone here, uncertain, afraid I didn't belong. Now I'm leaving with a squad, with friends, with a purpose. It's overwhelming." "The galaxy is vast," Crixall said, looking out at the stars, "full of wonders and terrors beyond imagining. But we will face them together, and that makes all the difference." "Together," Marcus agreed. "I like the sound of that." As they stood there beneath the alien sky, Marcus understood that his journey was just beginning. Graduation wasn't an ending. It was a doorway to possibilities he could barely imagine. There would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight, more impossible choices to make. But he wouldn't face them alone. He had proven that a human could stand among the galaxy's warriors. More importantly, he had shown that humanity had something valuable to offer the galactic community, not just tactical thinking or adaptability, though those mattered, but also compassion, the willingness to sacrifice for others, the belief that every life had value worth protecting. The Alien Academy had laughed when he first arrived, doubting whether a human belonged among them. But Marcus's mark on the Institute had silenced those doubts forever. He had earned his place not by becoming something he wasn't, but by being authentically human in a galaxy that needed exactly that perspective. Tomorrow, Squad 3 would begin their service with the Rapid Response Division. They would face real threats, protect real lives, and continue to prove that diverse species working together could accomplish what none could achieve alone. But tonight, Marcus simply stood beneath the stars, grateful for the journey that had brought him here, and ready for whatever came next. He was a graduate of the Galactic Defense Institute. He was a tactical coordinator of one of the most elite squads in the galaxy. He was a bridge between humanity and the stars. Most importantly, he was no longer alone. He had found his place among beings who saw past species and appearance to recognize the warrior within, and together, they would face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The human had come to the stars, and the stars had welcomed him home.